like we've been dancing since Saturday night.
There you go. And you did.
I know, right? You got your Georgia shirt on. I'll give you 30 seconds. Let it out.
I don't even need 30. 3 seconds. Go dogs. Let's
All
go.
right. Good job. I am excited. It's November 17th, and you know, I say this every year. It's kind of a typical leadership comment, but if you want production for 2025, you've got about 2 weeks to get this stuff under contract. Not that you couldn't close something in 2 weeks, but most real estate deals have 30-day cadence to them. So you got about 2 weeks to get it under contract and closed out in 2025. And Rick, I want your opinion, but I started thinking like, okay, so it's easy to say, but if I was really motivated to close something out before the end of 2025, what action would I take? And I thought about, well, maybe today's the day I focus on getting price reductions on all my listings. And could I get a price reduction today that would cause it to go under contract in the next 2 weeks? In theory. Do I call everybody on my buyer pipeline and see if I can't re-engage motivation today? And say, listen, there's some stuff we talked about on stats this morning that talks about some unique opportunity. Would you be interested to hear? Or what would you do if you were trying to get something, what activity would you take, Rick, to really move the needle on getting something closed out in 2025?
I mean, I think this is the perfect time pre-holidays to call every single Met in your database, like literally every single person. And it's not with the ask, hey, are you looking to buy, sell, or invest? It's really a check-in, a care call. So how's it going? Got plans for the holidays? And then eventually the oh by the way will be how are you doing? And you'll be invited to, share some data point or inspired thought around current market conditions and the opportunity. And one of the articles I believe today even speaks to inventory climbing. And again, it's about inspiring creative thought. Have you thought about an investment property or a second property or, is it, this could be the perfect time. Interest rates are attractive. And so again, it's an invitation because you sparked the conversation. The second thing, so that's one, call all your Mets and maybe finish with, oh, by the way, I love being in relationship with you. Who do you know that I should know that might one day choose me as a real estate professional? And see if you can spark another invitation to a call from maybe a haven't met, but an inner circle haven't met that's 1 degree separated. So there's an add-on. That's how you finish. Who do you know that I should know that might be transitional in the near term? So again, you're talking about how to close January, but it starts with conversations. The second thing I would do is go on a massive open house campaign. Maybe it's a drive home, from 4:30 or 5 to 7 and do it 3, 4 nights in a row and see, you don't want, they're not walking into your office or into your home office. Buyers aren't just showing up, but at least the open house, they raise their hand and suggest they're intrigued or interested in the idea of a new home or a different home. So put yourself physically in a place where opportunity might show up. And it might be 6 or 7 consecutive days of short-term open houses, lots of balloons and signs. And again, the key ingredient there is to have a really good scripted scenario of intrigue around what's going on and why now might be the perfect time.
Love it. Love it. All right, let's hit it. I'm going to go through the numbers fast because we got a lot of content to cover. Somebody probably should have done an extra active status change, but apparently there were 666 last week, which is a little bit down over the previous couple weeks. And while you might think that's a negative, I see it as a positive. I think supply historically comes down towards the end of the year. And I think it's going to put the market a little bit better in balance. So the fact that there's less competition should be a good thing for your sellers. And if you're working with buyers, hopefully it lends itself to motivation where they don't have 50 houses to go look at and they only have 20. And it moves the market a little faster. Active under contract 119. We had a big week the last 2 weeks. So we had 129 and 140, but 119 still very healthy if you kind of look at the weeks before that. And man, I think we got an article coming up here in a minute that's talking about like an engaged real estate environment in the near future. And it's just encouraging to be seeing these kind of numbers going into the end of the year because I'm not sure we had the same experiences the last couple of years. November's were really kind of weak and we were all kind of worried about the turn of the year. So these are great numbers, especially 271 pending. This is Fulton County, and 345 closed out in the middle of November. And you look across here, that is a big number for closings in Fulton County in the last 7 days. So that just goes to show that the market is moving fast. DeKalb County, 366, same
You've got
comment.
to be kidding me.
What do you mean, Jane? I'm not kidding you.
I didn't realize I wasn't on mute.
Okay, you can say it. Say it.
I just
All
can't
right.
believe that. I cannot believe that there are that many closings.
Well,
Given the,
I'm glad
given
you're
the,
talking to me. Normally, I just sit here with ghost voice, but all right. So thank you.
What are you
It's a big
saying about
number.
me, Brett?
There you go. 366 active in DeKalb. It's certainly down a little bit, but same comment. Like that's probably a good thing. What's huge is that 90 went under contract in DeKalb County in the last 7 days. You can kind of look back. We had an 80, but mostly it was 75 to 65. There was a 54 in there. So 90 is a very exciting breath of fresh air in DeKalb County of properties going under contract. 155 pending is solid, and 208, same story. Where's my Jane Lomas? Give me a. Got to be kidding me. 208.
No way.
All right, there you go. So 208 closed out the last 7 days in DeKalb. So Fulton wasn't an anomaly. DeKalb had the same experience. So you got to be telling me that the market is moving. And if we run over to Cobb County, inventory down 335, active status, softening, which is healthy. 92 under contract. We are literally hovering at like 90, 100 for the last 5 weeks in Cobb County. And then 173 pending. And Jane Lomas, you ready? Look at that. 227 closed out the last 7 days, Cobb County.
Oh my God, holy moly.
All right, there you go. So,
And it's mid-month. Mid-month. Everybody's
mid-month.
sneaking in. Everyone wants to sneak in before the holidays, clearly.
Right.
Yeah. So exciting to see a lot of activity. And what I get, Rick, and just give me your comments, but I mean, I had so much optimism for 2026. Like, I feel like we're going to have a normal year of real estate, but I feel like we're going to have a very healthy year. And I've heard all over the board predictions of what's going to happen next year, but everybody consistently is saying there's a high probability we will sell more houses next year. What are your thoughts, Rick?
I mean, that's what the prognosticators are saying. But even if it's steady state, the good news is we're not seeing wild fluctuations relative to, maybe there's governmental shutdown. I don't know, what's the boost here mid-November, but yeah, I think there's lots of room for opportunity. And the question I'm asking myself, if I'm in your shoes, is what can I do to get my unfair share? You only need one or two of those each month to have a great year.
Yep. Well, Rick, it's not every day we have a celebrity on the call. I'm going to spotlight him. He doesn't even know it.
I know who you're going for.
Hubert Tate, what's happening, sir? You sold it.
That I did. It took a while, but I'm very thankful that we were able to get it moved, and the seller stuck with me for more than a year. And to be honest with you, my listing agreement actually ran up, but he said, I'm gonna, because of the way you performed so far, the way you've been keeping me updated over the last year, I'm gonna give you another couple of months, and that couple of months got it sold.
Here's the thing. You listed originally at 3.9. It sold at 2.45. How many price reductions?
Oh, We went from 3.9 to 3.6 to 2.9, so 2.
Yeah. So it just goes to show sometimes you just got to stick with it, right? Like, and getting a seller in line with what the market will do is the skill set, right?
Yeah, and I also say, I'm very thankful that he gave me another couple of months because the previous agents before me, that did not happen. And I think that's a testament to, obviously the collective ability, but also just the reality that staying in constant communication and doing it with a degree of excellence does make a difference.
Yeah, and I want to also highlight one other person, if I can find him here. Um, he works behind the scenes so many times, but Mr. Luke Benton, uh, one thing I want y'all to be aware of is we have channels for press releases. So Hubert worked with Luke, and we were able to get the press releases out so that the Atlanta Business Chronicles and other news outlets will pick up the stories. So there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes to make something like this article happen. I mean, obviously, Hubert, you do the heavy load of getting the client secured and getting it under contract. But we want to support you as much as possible. So if there's ever an opportunity for a press release or something like that, we're happy to support. Luke, any thoughts?
Oh, I mean, yeah, these are, if there's something that's noteworthy that you would like to get out to the public, just let us know about it and we can put it together.
There you go. All right. Well,
Cool.
let's move on, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity. So Lawrence Yun, have you ever heard him speak, Rick?
I have.
He's an interesting guy. He's very personable, and he's an economist, which normally don't go in the same sentence. Like those two things don't normally go together. But he's predicting a post-government shutdown real estate boom, and I tend to agree with him. I think that when the things happen like the government shutdown, the media goes crazy, and it just gets the mind share of the consumer and maybe it pulls consumer confidence down a little bit. But now that this is over, I think the consumer confidence is on the rise, and I think we're going to see a little bump in home sales in the next 2 weeks, which I'm excited about because if everybody will take action, I think you can get some more properties closed for the end of the year. What do you make of it?
Fear's a greater motivator for most people than opportunity. And when I say motivator, I would say an energy that impacts your decision making. And the government shutdown, uncertainty, jobs. There's so many things that enter your psyche when news is what it's been for the extended period that it has. So I think it gives us some clean air and some optimism, and that frees people up to make better, more opportunistic decisions versus out of fear, which usually locks people down.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see that. And he also cited that it was predicated on the last time the government shut down and the impact or effect. So it wasn't just a feeling. There is some data to support that this is a likely evolution. And back to the reason to call every single person between now and the end of the year, and hopefully sooner than that.
All right. Metro Atlanta, you alluded to this earlier, Rick. Housing supply climbs to the highest mark since before the pandemic. Well, here's the thing. You might think that's negative. However, I'd give you context. Before the pandemic was normal. So what it's saying is if I rewrote the headline, that wouldn't be clickbait. It would say Atlanta's housing supply is now back to normal since before the pandemic. And it feels very different when you say it that way because the pandemic and the last 5 or 6 years of real estate have been anything but normal. And we're all saying, "Hey, welcome to normal. We're back to a normal real estate market." I heard Sean Rawls last week talking about abnormal, meaning he's saying there's no such thing as normal. It's just less of abnormal. Um, but I don't know. I think a healthy real estate market has a healthy relationship between supply and demand. So if supply is super low, it's actually not a healthy real estate market, even though we're making a lot of money. Or if supply gets really high and buyers are not uh, at the highest of demand, uh, that one doesn't translate to a lot of money. And it's certainly not a healthy market either. The reality is, business is always healthiest when there's a healthy relationship between supply and demand. I don't know, Rick, you read it. You alluded to it earlier. What are your comments?
To me, it's just opportunity. It says two things. One, sellers are getting comfortable with the idea of forfeiting their current rate and letting go of a home for something bigger and better or different. Um, and then the flip side of that is, as a buyer's agent or representative, man, it gives you something to talk about. It gives you, if you're scanning for your active prospects every single day, now you have more reason to call them as inventory starts to grow in your target market and say, hey, have you seen? And not just, back to, it's even better when you have targeted calls with specific questions and, again, creating intrigue around, hey, let's hop in a car and go take a look after work at this house. It's new to the market, and I think it's awesome, and it might be a good fit. That's a compelling conversation. Not, hey, have you thought about buying, in the near term?
Yep.
So it just gives you something to talk about that's very specific and illustrates professionalism, that you know your market.
There you go. Uh, I mean, that's why we do these calls, right? Like, we want you to know your market. And, I realize, well, let me get to this article real quick and then I'll make this comment. So, is free money broke? If free money broke the housing before, a 50-year mortgage will finish the job. And we could laugh,
A lot of
but it's a
clickbait going
hot
on here.
topic right now, a 50-year mortgage. And everybody has an opinion. And I want to make my comment real quick. Your buyers and sellers hire you for your advice and opinions and your skill sets, but they want your advice and opinions. So if we disagree on whether or not the 50-year mortgage is a good or a bad thing, that's okay, because your advice and opinion is what your consumers want. Now, I think you form your advice and opinions on calls like this, but I also recognize not everybody's going to think about this the exact same way. I certainly will share how I think about it. And Rick, I think you obviously have an opinion on it too. Yet, I think some people are going to think this is a good thing, and some people are going to think this is a stupid thing. And that's okay. And remember, you're being hired for your advice and opinions, right? So, what this article is trying to say is the subprime bad lending practice market before, uh, the 50-year mortgage is going to come in and finish the job, which is just stupid. But um, I don't think,
Lightweight.
uh, first of all, the 50-year mortgage is going to be a product that's backed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So it's not a subprime loan. It actually is a government backed loan. Um, Yet, is it a good or a bad thing? 100% debatable. We've got a graphic here. Let me put it up here that shows a comparison. And it shows if you got a 6.3 interest rate on a $420,000 home price, what does the 30-year look like versus a 6.6% on a 40-year versus a 6.8% on a 50-year? And it's not that much payment difference. If the rates were 6.3 all the way across, you'd probably see a bigger difference in payment. But the suspicion is the longer term the mortgage, the higher the interest rate's probably going to be. So are they saving that much money on the loan? There is some savings. And one of the arguments is they could buy a more expensive house with a longer term mortgage than they could with a 30-year mortgage. So it gives them buying power, which does speak to affordability. Um, And I think most people are putting these kinds of charts together to dispel what a 50-year mortgage would look like. But the thing that I see that's interesting that I really wanted to point out is this last column. So I think everybody understands an amortized loan, the interest is paid primarily in the beginning of the loan, and principal reduction is very small in the beginning and very large in towards the end of the life of the loan. Yet 21 years to pay off half the loan on a 30-year mortgage, which says if you borrowed 400,000, it would take 21 years to pay off 200,000, and then the final 9 years to pay off the other 200,000, versus 30 years to pay it off on a 40-year, or 40 years on a 50-year. What do you make of that?
I mean, to me, it's a conversation starter and another opportunity to illustrate professionalism, expertise, and intelligence and insight so that you're asking the right questions that they self-discovered truth around. I like the idea of, paying things off sooner than later, but the number one question you should ask when you launch into this is how long do you plan to live there? Because that might affect the economics of transition later, because the last thing you want to do is the market shifts subtly and they're upside down and stuck. And having to bring cash. So that's, again, it's a conversation starter and an opportunity to really show care and candor at the same time.
Yep. All right.
But I know this is, and maybe Van, I think you're on the call and Luke's on the call, Luke Hale. So like I pay one extra month of principal each year, and I think it shortens that term or that payoff from like 30 years on a 30-year fixed. I believe it cuts it to 24-ish. Am I right? Just by paying one extra
7 years.
Say it again.
Shaves off about 7 years doing that.
So one extra month a year just in dedicated principal payment, 7 years. I mean, that's if that's not a conversation starter, what is when you're talking finances and buying and investing in real estate?
There you go. All right. So let's hit this. This is interesting, and we don't talk a lot about the stock market per se on these calls, but every now and then something's of interest. So what this chart is showing is the number of US listed domestic companies on the New York Stock Exchange. So this dark blue line is showing a pretty sharp decline in companies being listed on the New York Stock Exchange that are US listed companies. And then the teal line or blue line talks about S&P excuse me 500 buybacks. And Luke, Benton, what's a buyback?
Buybacks are just whenever a company decides to purchase their own stocks back from the market so that they increase the value of their stock overall.
Yeah, so they go in and repurchase their own stocks, so or reinvest in themselves. So what's interesting is there's less companies, meaning being a publicly traded company is becoming less and less sexy, is probably an easy way to say it. And the companies that are publicly traded are reinvesting in themselves. So I think it's interesting. I've got a couple comments. Like, obviously, Keller Williams as a company is not a publicly traded company, and I think the environment of private equity is becoming more and more popular versus going to Wall Street for money for companies. And I think it's interesting, obviously, Keller Williams being a non-publicly traded company. But the other thing I think about is, like, I played golf last week with a financial advisor that Rick introduced me to, and I asked him the question, and I love asking financial advisors this question. I said, how much does real estate come into your consultation with people around planning their financial future? And he was really good, and he said, He goes, it's certainly a part of our discussions and a part of their portfolio. And I don't make any money on that part of the product offering, but I do certainly consult them around it. And then of course he flipped it on me and said, well, how much does financial consulting come into y'all's play on finance? And I was like, yeah, yeah. But I just know that real estate is underserved in terms of financial planning for people. I don't think the conversation around real estate as a vehicle uh, being a financial planning tool is had as much because I think most people land in the stock market or in Wall Street in financial planning. And I think it's becoming less and less popular, maybe. I don't know. What do you think, Rick? You look at this, my brain went a bunch of different places.
It did, and my ADD was flaring during that last diatribe.
You're
But
good.
so I think it comes back to asking good questions again. And maybe a question when you call your past clients is what percentage of your portfolio are you counting on for your retirement that's real estate driven? And just see what they say. Like just ask, hey, I'm taking a poll of all of my clients to see how important real estate is as part of your long-term strategy for wealth building. And and that could lead to a, well, what do you mean? Which it might, and it might be, well, I know some clients that are also investing in, portfolio driven real estate through their broker. And then some are buying single family, rental residential. Some are using the VRBO method and path. But again, it comes down to your level of confidence and expertise to give them great advice. And again, all you're really doing is helping them self discover that, real estate is a vital part of most wealthy people's portfolio.
All
And
right.
it's more than just one owner occupied home.
Let me help you see the forest through the trees in this one. $100,000 salary in the year 2000 had the same buying power as a $187,000 salary today. Or a reverse of that means $100,000 today is about the same as $54,000 in the year 2000. Just going to leave that there for a second.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know income growth, inflation, everything plays a factor here. But Rick, I got to tell you, the thing that drives me a little crazy is in the 20 years I've been in leadership in real estate. When I started in this business, I would interview agents, and 99% of them would walk in the door, and I'd say, "How much money you want to make?" And they would say $100,000.
Yeah.
And today, I ask our team leaders from time to time, what's the typical answer when somebody walks in the door, how much money they want to make? And 99%, 20 years later, still say $100,000. And it does that. This says that's crazy. And I'm wondering at what point in time are people going to walk in the door and start saying, no, I want to make $200,000 or whatever the number is, or I want to make $187,000. Yet everybody still has this mystical number of $100,000. What do you make of it?
The question you should be asking is, why is that important to me?
Yeah.
And that's the best question you can ask a buyer or seller as well. When they make a statement or claim of fact, don't take it at face value. Ask them why that's important and then go three deep. By the time you ask three consecutive questions, as you delve in, you'll get to the real core truth. And that's where you have leveraged energy around a valid, meaningful conversation.
Yep.
You should ask yourself the same question. If 100,000 is your number today, who cares if it's worth 50,000? If it gets you to the finish line and it funds the perfect life, go do it. The question is where you are and what you're doing. Is it currently meeting that need and your wants and needs? And does it also pave the way for security if things shifted for 6 months or a year? What's your safety net look like?
Yep. Back to Wall Street. Open doors up 1,200%. Now, the CEO invested $1 million of his personal capital into the company back this summer. And that spawned some of this. But I guess the question is, do you think you're going to start seeing more open door in the marketplace? If this held true, I would say yes. Now, I wouldn't freak out over it because I think at the best or the peak, open door was like 10% of the market. But I do think you're going to see more guaranteed offers. Mark Spain on TV commercials over the weekend, I saw billboards. So we have a product called iFinder in Atlanta. If you're not familiar, you should be. You can do cash offers on properties. You just have to get certified and use that platform. Deborah Blue in our Midtown office is kind of our local rep for it. So reach out. But it's interesting. All right. I'm going to leave this one here and let you read it. And then we'll talk about it. What's your blink, Rick?
I don't believe in borrowing money for depreciating assets whenever possible.
You know, I think
In other words, pay cash for things that are going to lose value so that you just don't commit future money to a bad investment.
I think I hear you, and I think
You said first blush.
they'll give you a cool car and charge you $1,000 a month, a lot faster than you get a house, and a lot less money down. And I also think that becomes the reason people don't buy houses. It's kind of crazy, right?
Well, it's all about affordability and the collective overhead. They call it your burn rate, the amount of money it costs to live the life you've chosen.
So here's what I thought about when I put this on the screen. If I was a real estate professional doing first time homebuyer seminars, this might be a slide on the screen. If I was doing consulting with people looking to buy their first house, this is a money conversation that could get people moving towards buying their first house, right? But anyway, it was just an interesting thing we had for today as a talking point. Bankruptcy filings. So right now, the blue bars are year to date through October in the previous years. And then obviously the gray bars the rest of the year, but we don't have the rest of this year. We're almost back to where we were in 2010. Like I think 2010 was right at 700, and we're at 655 through October.
I see 826 or 8.
Well, that's the whole year.
Oh,
the
I see
blue,
what you're
the
saying.
blue bar
7
is
and change.
comparing,
I got
yeah,
you. Yeah. Year to date.
yeah, year to date. So we're probably not going to finish with 828, but we're probably going to finish way north of 750, I would guess. So it just goes to show that there's some financial pain out there in the marketplace. And financial pain, ironically, translates to real estate sales because they will sell their assets, they'll sell their investment properties, they'll sell things. So it's just something to be aware of. Layoffs. So now that the government's back open, we're going to start to see some labor data. And there's twofold here. We're almost back to the layoff climate that was existed at the beginning of the Great Recession. So 2008, 2009 was the yellow and the red lines, and the black line is where 2025 is. So is that cause for concern? Not specifically. I think the economic climate around those other years were very different than the economic climate we have now. However, I always say that, like, if you or somebody you knew close to you loses their job, that's not a positive thing. And when that happens and labor gets this high, it actually tends to benefit our industry because they'll pull the mortgage rates down to move the economy faster, and we tend to sell more houses. So um, while it's a flip side of a coin here.
Yeah, sometimes bad news leads to good results.
Yeah. All right. Last but not least, the nation's largest home builder, which is D.R. Horton, has introduced a mortgage incentive program that drops the introductory rate below 1% for qualified buyers. On a $400,000 home with a 10% down payment, that the typical amount for a first-time home buyer today, that could amount to nearly $1,000 in savings the first month of the first year. So, Luke, I don't know if you want to put the details of that in the chat, but here's what I would say about it: is I believe the new construction world is nervous and super motivated to bring a lot of incentives to the table in 2026. And you just need to familiarize yourself with it.
Well, the number one cost for a builder once their product's up is carrying cost. And so the last thing they want is extended inventory for an extended period of time. And this goes back to paying attention and doing your homework and recognizing who is more vulnerable. And it's not necessarily taking advantage of, but it's certainly capitalizing on the opportunity. And it leads again to a storyline and a narrative that your clients see that you're the ultimate professional. And I believe Luke did drop that into the chat already.
Yeah, he did.
Good job, Luke.
Well, it looks like it's like almost an arm where
It's a buy down of sort, I think.
a buy down 0.99 the first year, 1.99 year two, which makes me nervous. Like, are they qualifying them on the payment on the 0.99, or are they qualifying them on the payment of the actual full market rate? But we'll get there.
Luke is nodding yes. It's on the ultimate number. It's not the buy down.
Yeah.
That would be super foolish.
I agree. Anyway, you got 2 weeks to get it in for 2025. Make today about activities to make that happen.
Call every single person in your database. Connect and show care and candor.
Love
All
it.
right, guys.
Have a good one.
Be good.